This is the You, Me, and BTC podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Welcome to episode 95. Karl Mark Force IV, the rogue DEA agent on the Silk Road case, was just sentenced to 78 months in prison. Should he have gotten a smaller sentence due to his stressful work environment? Was the judge really trying to preserve public trust? Stay tuned for our thoughts on those questions and more. Tim will even share why he likes Force more than most government agents in a sense. Then after that, we'll discuss Adam Draper's opinion about the difference between Bitcoin and the blockchain. They're very similar, but big money definitely prefers the term blockchain, and we'll try to guess why that is. Your hosts today are Tim Baker, John Stuart, and myself, Daniel Brown. Here we go. So, on today's edition of Text from Tim...
Ooh, I like this.
Tim, you said not to do it.
I know, but it feeds my inability. Like, I don't like not thinking about other people thinking about me, so I'll act like I don't want to hear it.
Shut up. So, here it is,
man.
Directly from Tim, from the fingertips of Tim. How hurt would your grandma be if she was talking to you and you said, "Shut up, you stupid c***"?
That was asked in confidence, I just want to say, in the first place, but whatever.
Oh, sorry. Not
I
sorry.
I didn't really expect you to keep it too much.
Anyway, that's out of the way. I just had to do that because Tim told me not to, so I figured it would be a good idea to open the show with that.
Good for you, Daniel. I'm glad you're finding out ways to break out of yourself.
All I said is that my grandma would be confused, and then about an hour later, Tim asked me to pay for a hooker for him. So
I think I said, did I say a hooker?
Yeah.
What else would you have said?
I mean,
what's
I'd
close
like to
to
use
a hooker, but not a hooker?
No, like a classier name.
Oh,
like
you mean just the term.
A lady of the night or something like that.
I know you said hooker. Like, I wasn't even there.
I probably did.
I wasn't even there, but I know you said hooker.
So I am Daniel Brown, and I'm here with...
John Stuart.
Tim... Oh,
oh
on.
Boy!
Tim Baker. I won't wait.
Welcome to the You, Me, and BTC podcast. That was an interesting intro, but that's how we roll here. Glad to have you with us. I guess we're going to kick off the show with Karl Mark Force IV, a really official-sounding name, is sentenced to a whopping 78 months in prison. Oh, thank goodness. I'm glad he went to prison. 78 months, that ought to set him straight for all the evil he did.
Well, he'll probably learn, because by sitting in a cell, that's the best way to rehabilitate someone back into regular
obviously.
life.
Well,
I'm glad he's in there because he's protecting.
Obviously, the loony bin didn't work for him because he was institutionalized before, so...
Yeah, because of a... I kind of want to know what happened, according to that article, because they don't actually tell us, but something bad happened there. In... What did it say, in Paraguay?
Wait,
in
you want to know
Rico,
what happened?
Not Paraguay. I didn't remember the country that he had his nervous breakdown over.
I didn't... Tell me about this. I haven't read any of this article.
We're looking at an article from Ars Technica. I don't know how to say it, but you can probably find several hundred of these articles from the several hundred different Bitcoin news stories, media,
or even non-Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this one is a Bitcoin site per se,
right.
Or not per se. I don't think it's a Bitcoin site at all.
Right. We've done a few from here before.
Yeah. Well, apparently, Karl's defense in the trial tried to use that he was under a lot of stress and to point back to his...
Hold on. I guess we should back up a little bit. I'm guessing most people know this, but if you don't, we should clarify that this is the DEA agent who... I'm sure we covered this story before, but I don't remember the details. But he was infiltrating the Silk Road and exploiting people and stealing money and stuff. And they just tried him, or they just sentenced him. So,
and also working for that coin MKT, where he moonlighted for them and stole according to this article, $370,000 from a customer there.
Yeah, I do remember that. I think we did it on a live show. But yeah, he kind of illegally worked for this company because he said he could get inside information as a government agent. And yeah, whatever, he got in trouble for that, so.
But anyway, according to Carl's defense, their main push, because they can't really say that he didn't do it, because they're kind of stuck as to what they can say and how they can defend him, and all they're really going for, it seems, according to the article, is that he was under a lot of stress and that he has a stressful job and his life is really, really hard, so that makes sense to then go and steal $307,000 and then only give some of it to his government overlords. But what they're saying, what his defense is saying, is that to take into consideration for their sentencing of Carl, that he was under a lot of stress and that he has a family history of abuse and alcoholism, which sounds...
Yeah, so let's give him a lesser sentence.
Yeah, because apparently back in 2008, he was doing some undercover work, and it was in Puerto Rico, and it caused him to have a, quote, break from reality, which sounds really bad, especially then because he was institutionalized, and then, according to this article, quote, Forrest wasn't allowed to return to his work at the DEA until 2010, unquote. Like, that's some kind of a responsible way to deal with somebody. Well, you went to the institution for a little bit. Let's put you back on a case and give you all this power after, 2 years. You're probably good after that. And, of course, the prosecutor, to them saying, let's give him a reduction in sentence because he was operating in a stressful environment and has mental health issues, says that would be incredibly dangerous because many federal agents operate in a stressful environment. It's a stressful job, and I would add most of them probably have mental health issues to have that job. So you can't give that, because then every single one that just puts a bullet into some guy's head is, I was in a stressful situation. I've had a lot of problems. I go home and I beat my wife. It's just terrible. But, no, nothing that says he actually beats his wife, but I'll just slander his name a little bit more.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't pay attention when I first read it, but it says about how he stole $370,000 from the customer of Coin MKT, which is a Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoin exchange. But he stole $370,000 from the customer and then put $37,000 of that into a government account and kept the rest. And he's now being ordered to pay $337,000 in restitution to the victim, identified only as RP. He was also ordered to pay $3,000 to Curtis Green, a former Silk Road staffer whose forces team arrested. I don't know why he has to pay him $3,000, especially since he's probably in custody. I'm sure we've read about Green before. That might have been the dude who, one of the ones they first got, but I don't remember what kind of sentence he got or what the restitution's for.
Right. Well, to be fair, I'm kind of a fan of what would it be called? The insanity defense or whatever?
This isn't in the insanity defense. This is, he had a really bad time and we should leave him alone defense.
Okay.
No, they said he had mental illness.
Yeah, mental illness.
Yeah. And not really for this guy, but in the general sense, I like that defense because I think that we're all mentally ill and we all deserve a break from government, violence or whatever. So I think it's a good one.
Not quite sure exactly what you mean.
I mean that we're all mentally ill, everyone is messed up, and the government should stop putting people in cages.
Well, the reason why we're mentally, it's kind of a chicken and the egg. Are we mentally ill because of government, or is the government there because we're mentally ill?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer.
Actually, in some ways, if he had won this case, it's a weird thing because, he was a government employee. So, if they let him win the case, that would reflect badly on them. Do you get what I'm saying? If it's actually true that he had mental illness and they let him go back on the job, then it's their fault that he's doing all this crazy stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, you'd think
they would
the classic.
They had to have vetted him. Which
it's the government trying themselves. Like they're putting themselves on trial. Like it's kind of contradictory, yeah.
I don't know if it's putting themselves on trial. It's more like, okay, this guy blatantly stole from people, unlike the way that we've agreed to do it, and so he needs to get thrown under the bus because this isn't like detrimental to them, I don't think. I haven't heard anyone who wouldn't already say it saying that, well, see, this is why the DEA needs to have its powers restricted, is because they'll do this. It's more just, well, see, whenever this happens, they caught the guy, and this is how it's supposed to work. So, they couldn't have not charged him. That just wouldn't have worked, because he a little bit too obviously did it. I don't think they could have just fired him and they didn't want to, because he stole money from them. He stole money from other people that they were supposed to get, and then he took his cut from it. And then I don't see any reason for them not to go after him for that. Because if anything, that's what they're going to care about, is the money. And that he wasn't playing fairly inside their own little rules of being able to steal from people.
Right. Yeah, the money definitely is a factor. Do you think public opinion is a factor at all? Didn't one of you say something about that?
How much public opinion comes into a DEA agent who stole from a online drug kingpin?
I mean...
Yeah, I don't know how much it would have changed. I guess what I was trying to say by bringing this up is more just that, like, I don't know, like, I guess I just, like, naturally tend to think when people plea insanity or plea mental illness, it's just, like, them trying to get out of it. And that's probably, I mean, there's probably a fair bit of that going on here. Like, I don't trust this guy at all, and I don't think anyone has any reason to trust him.
Absolutely.
He's double-crossed, like, multiple people now. And, like, but at the same time, I feel like it's actually the agency's fault that all of this happened.
I think that's pretty true. I mean, they're the ones who, well, I don't know.
They're the ones who hired him back on after they knew he had a mental break from reality, whatever that means. And they hired him back on and put him back on undercover work.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree that that's some pretty dumb stuff to do, but it's still like, you can't say like the cop is innocent because it's the department's fault.
Oh, no.
I mean,
I don't think he's innocent. It's just like, I hate the fact that, like, if whoever wins the case gets off without a punishment. And in this case, both deserve a punishment. Okay,
yeah. I definitely agree with that. I still want to know more about public opinion, though. I mean, I guess it hasn't had a ton of media coverage. It's definitely not, like, on the national news every day or anything. But do you really think it would, like, let's say they found him, okay, yeah. I was going to say, let's say they found him completely innocent. Don't you think people would be upset? But probably not. Not any more than are going to be upset for a 78-month sentence. I mean, it's, a little community of Bitcoiners who are like, "Oh, that was dumb." It would have been identical if he got no sentence. It would have been a bunch of people just saying, "Well, that was dumb," and that's all that would have happened. So maybe you're right, Tim. I just corrected myself. Maybe public opinion is not that big a deal.
I don't think even if more people were aware of it, I don't think it would have even made that much of a difference.
I mean, I guess this is what I was looking for earlier. It does say the extent and scope of Mr. Force's betrayal of public trust is quite simply breathtaking.
Which is just a retarded statement. That doesn't mean anything.
Judge.
Yeah, well, it's because the judge is a pompous cunt, probably, who thinks that what he says actually has any kind of meaning outside of a little courtroom where he dresses up in a little dress and smacks a hammer on something. Because actually, I don't feel betrayed by this guy at all. I kind of like this guy because at least he's doing it. Like, yeah, no, I'll take the money.
Okay, we've had this argument before about that. I don't want to do that again.
Oh, I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying I'm not bothered by it.
That's the thing. You also, like, don't expect the government to do a good job in the first place.
I don't think anyone does. Nobody does.
No,
every single time you take a poll, they're like, no, they're terrible. But then everyone's like, why don't they do better?
No, yeah, people still expect it, even if they say they don't. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I could just imagine tons of people that I know, probably all of them over the age of 35, who are like, how could they let this happen? Like,
okay.
I think the judge is actually probably right.
The betrayal of public trust thing, that kind of, I could take that more seriously if they hadn't kept this information out before the trial.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point.
Because they didn't even arrest him until afterwards.
Yeah, that's totally a fair point.
So yeah, you're talking about the Ulbricht trial where they wouldn't let them talk about this rogue agent.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't know if I follow that last point then, though, Tim. What does them mentioning it in the trial have to do with public trust?
About it being a public trust. Just the fact that the legal system is made the way it is, where they just keep information like this out. Because it's like, he's betraying public trust that way, but the people involved in that case, I would think, are also betraying public trust, because it's not like it didn't hurt anyone except their attempt to get a life sentence to not bring this up. And it's not like, you can't make well, Ross Ulbricht was a dangerous criminal, they needed to send him away for life so he didn't harm anyone. I don't like his phrase of the public trust, because, like we said, first off, no one gave a shit.
Okay.
And two, you're not helping the public trust, you aren't a public servant.
So you're saying that you would believe that he's concerned about public trust more if... Now, these are two different judges.
Yeah, they're completely different judges, so you can't really make the comparison. So I'm not being fair, but...
Right, but I'm still just trying to understand this. You're saying that you would understand his concern for public trust more, and you would kind of believe it more, if they were allowed to bring this up in the Ulbricht trial, because that would have been an example of them being concerned about public trust, is allowing them to talk about the rogue agent.
Yeah, being open about it the entire time and not hiding it until you'd already sent that guy away for life, and then being, well, yeah, he did something wrong, let's arrest him now. Because we don't want to do it before the trial's over, that might mess with us trying to put someone away who showed us up.
Yeah, I mean, also, to say that it's a betrayal of public trust is saying that they think it's bad. And going with the same idea of them not mentioning it during the trial, it's like they're not going to talk about how this bad thing happened until after the other trial is done.
Yeah.
It's like, right now, I have no moral issue with this. until we get this other guy behind bars, then I'll have a problem with it.
John, it's because they're focused on applying the law very well. They can separate their moral quandaries from what they go to work to do. They're very impartial, but they're still going to make stupid comments about this and be up on a throne and say, well, morally you're under me, even though I'm not supposed to bring this into it. I'm just supposed to go off the law. It's just you can't have these court systems and then making these moral judgments in the middle of it. There's no need for it. There's no need for his stupid little thing here, besides for him to feel important. And then the thing after it is compounded by the fact that it appears to have been motivated by greed and thrill-seeking, including the pursuit of a book and movie deal. First part of that, motivated by greed and thrill-seeking. What else do people do things for? That's what you do things for, generally. Thrill-seeking and greed is what generally moves people to do things. Anything that's not I forgot the word.
Like beneficial?
No, not beneficial, because still...
Tim, you're forgetting that most people think people are good deep down.
Do they? I guess maybe they do.
I think most people do.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Well, it depends if you think greed is a bad thing or a good thing. If you believe it's
not good or bad. Greed is just
most people who also think that people are good deep down also think greed is a bad thing.
Okay,
I'm
right.
comfortable making these kind of blanket statements because I think I just imagine people listening to this and being like, "Of course, I think greed is a bad thing. Of course, I think people are deep down are good." Like, I can't really imagine people getting mad about me saying this. So
yeah.
All right.
And then the second part, this isn't against the judge anymore. It's just, I don't think... Well, the way he says it, I'm not sure if Carl Forrest was trying to go for a book and movie deal once he was caught, or if he was trying to do it, like, while it was happening. I hope it was after he was caught. I hope he's not that stupid about it. Dude, I have this crazy story to sell. I didn't do it, but... What if a DEA agent stole all this money?
Yeah. I like this quote near the end from his lawyer. There's no doubt he's going to jail. He's lost his career, he's lost his marriage, he's lost everything he's had. He'll always have a life sentence because of the mental health issues he has. So, there it is. This guy is suffering profoundly.
I like
He's
that.
imprisoned inside his own mind.
Yeah, I know. I really like that.
I can do that too. No, officer, I wasn't buying a hooker. I'm so overcome by my guilt over what I've done. I think that's enough.
The manipulation of it. That's beautiful rhetoric right there.
Yeah, it's a lawyer speak.
I know. Oh man, I should go to law school. I don't even want to be a lawyer. I just want to go to law school so that I can spin stuff like that.
It reminds me of Catch-22 from Meshuggah, right? The struggle to free myself becomes my very shackles.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, and here's the counter from the prosecutor. The notion that Mr. Force should get a reduction because he was operating in a stressful environment and has mental health issues, that would send an incredibly dangerous message. Many federal agents operate in stressful environments. It's a stressful job. Right. I know they're such great servants. They're working so hard under such stress.
He's in a very stressful environment, Daniel. He had to talk to criminals over text.
Oh, gosh. They could have killed him.
He had to fake a man's torture and death.
I think that's exactly what she's saying.
What?
That's exactly what the prosecutor is saying. She's saying, if we were to let him get off, or let him get off because of this, that sends, a really terrible message.
Right. It says that any agent can get off of crimes because all of them are stressed.
Yeah, that's exactly what the prosecutor was saying.
Yeah,
right.
And we're saying that federal agents probably, I'm saying specifically him, but I'm going to make fun of him. Oh, never mind. I'm going to say that most federal agents sit behind a desk and don't do much. And then him specifically being in the field for him was just extorting nerds over the internet. So I wouldn't have felt too scared for him. Being in there stealing $370,000 from people going, oh no, someone might find me. And then what are they're going to find out I'm a DEA, and then they're not going to touch me because no one does but the cartels.
No, so, I'm sure they're actually pretty stressed.
Oh, if you're in a white supremacist gang undercover, then yeah. Or if in Puerto Rico I don't know what he was involved there. I'm talking this particular one.
No, I bet even then they're stressed, even if it's not legitimate. It might be I don't know, freaking yourself out. I think just being in that kind of job, you tend to, I don't know, maybe it's a confirmation bias thing where people expect that to be a stressful job, so they look for ways to be stressed, but...
yeah, I'm sure they're stressed. Yeah, I get what you mean with it, yeah.
All right. Anything else on this one, or should we move on?
I guess just a follow-up, Force still isn't allowed. Carl Force the Fourth, which good job on that name, guy. But he's barred from communicating with Sean Bridges, which is, I believe, an FBI agent. Or no, the other agent in the Baltimore office who has also stolen money from the Silk Road and not reported it back to his overlords. So he's also going to be sentenced. Secret Service agent.
That'll be interesting to see how the cases compare.
So it was it was another agent that did the same kind of things, pretty much.
Yeah, he just stole money from the Silk Road. I believe it was another extortion thing.
Wouldn't it be great if we could put all Force in jail for a couple of years?
If you could put all Force?
Yeah, if we could lock it up and put it away for 78 months.
Lock up Force, okay. I was I'm like, does he mean the entire police force?
I thought he meant. I thought he said all four Force because he's Carl the Force the Fourth, and I was
put what, them all in there, dig out his.
What did his father and grandfather? Yeah,
all four of them.
What did they do? That's what I thought you said at first.
I'm completely fine with them digging up his dead relatives and throwing him in a cell with him.
Well, I guess he supposedly had some kind of abuse, so maybe we should.
Well, yeah, it's actually their fault. It was Mama Force's fault for yelling at him whenever he tried to touch himself when he was younger. Be like, don't do that! And he got all, freaked out about it, so he had to steal money.
Obviously.
Yeah. Do not go to Tim for psychoanalysis.
What
don't
I
go
think
to
is
anyone.
your
Please
past.
don't go to anyone for psychoanalysis. They'll give you 100 different answers. All right. And it's all like double talk and daddy issues and whatever. So
Well, Tim put the Freudian psychosexual. That's what it is.
I'm telling you, that's what it was. Carl Forrest just wanted to jack off. His mother wouldn't let him, so he's like, I'm going to steal $370,000 from somebody someday. I'm going to be able to buy all the porn I want.
Yeah.
Are you tired of Bitcoin dice and ready for something different? Try LuckyBit, the original falling coin game, at luckybee.it. It's the most exciting Bitcoin game on the web. You can bet on 5 different payout lines and win up to 999 times your bet. You can even use their faucet to get some free Bitcoin. Dice is boring. Play different at LuckyBit. Check it out at luckybee.it. All right, we are gonna cover some, it's not necessarily news, but it's kind of some information that from Adam Draper, some stuff he's been talking about lately. And this is a CoinDesk article. The headline here is Adam Draper, investors don't want to hear the word Bitcoin. So before we get into the specifics here, I think it would be worth starting with just talking about Bitcoin versus blockchain. That's a decent chunk of this article is devoted to that. So let's just put it out there. What's the difference, guys?
From a very general perspective, Bitcoin is the currency, the whole technology of Bitcoin, of sending the money that way and the transactions, and I'd say the blockchain is the recording of those transactions, at least the way they're looking at it.
I think the way people normally like talk about blockchain is just like the idea of it. So not the actual Bitcoin blockchain, just blockchain.
The idea of a ledger.
Yeah.
I would think a permanent ledger online.
Yeah. I mean, we've obviously covered this before. It's something that a lot of newbies need to hear and understand. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's Bitcoin, the currency, and then there's the blockchain, which is this distributed ledger that everything runs on with mining and everything. And actually, Draper really doesn't distinguish very much. He basically says that Bitcoin is the blockchain, and he says it's really just the word he uses is vernacular. It's as far as he's concerned, they really are similar things, and it's just kind of a wording change that is happening. And I guess we should clarify this some more. So the difference that I just said, the currency versus the ledger, the network and stuff, that's actually not necessarily, I mean, obviously anybody can define these however they want, especially since they're so new, you can redefine them as much as you want. But actually, that's more what people say is the difference between Bitcoin with a capital B and Bitcoin with a lowercase b. The lowercase b is the currency, the capital B is the network. Have you heard anything like that before?
Yes. Yeah, I've heard that. I think I've heard Antonopoulos say that a few times, making the difference. And I've heard a few different people say that. I'm pretty sure we've said it on here. Yeah,
I think we have. And I guess so maybe what I just said about the difference isn't perfect. Maybe it's more of like, and again, he doesn't see much difference at all, but if you had to point to a difference, I guess it would just be that Bitcoin is one specific example of the blockchain, and the blockchain obviously can serve things other than Bitcoin. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and I think it can. I think that's what they're looking at doing, but I don't see how they can exactly, since I thought the whole thing of the blockchain was because it's like decentralized, but as soon as you do this, you're just kind of cutting off that part.
Wait, you don't see how they can do what? Or as soon as they do what?
Not that I can't see them how they do it. I don't see
Do what?
Implementing blockchain technology into banks.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know how we got there, but yeah, that's something they talk about.
Well, no, okay, so yeah.
Yeah, that's actually definitely something we should talk about because he covers it quite a bit. But actually, I do also, another thing I have to add to this definition, I guess it really is a lot more confusing than it should be, maybe. But there's also, when it comes to Bitcoin versus blockchain, I just was saying that with the blockchain, you can apply it to things other than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is like a subset of the blockchain. Bitcoin is a type of blockchain. But then another thing that you have to point out is that the Bitcoin blockchain, the one that is used for Bitcoin, can be used for a ton of other purposes. It already is used for a ton of other purposes. And people are talking about, like we said, putting it into banks maybe and whatever. Or there can be a non-Bitcoin blockchain that you could create yourself and use that for a different purpose. Does that make any sense? Do you see the difference I'm making there?
Well, that's what I always think when people say blockchain but not Bitcoin. I mean, all these banks who are doing it, they're not, I don't think they're looking at doing it with Bitcoin's actual blockchain. Like,
no.
I know BNY Mellon has like their own coin, and they're working on their own blockchain stuff, completely separate from the Bitcoin network.
That's pretty crazy. I didn't know that, but my guess would be there's quite a bit of both. My guess would be a lot of people. I mean, maybe not banks, because I know obviously banks would love to have their own stuff and control it, like we say all the time. But in terms of innovation in general, I'm sure there are a bunch of people who are trying to innovate with the Bitcoin blockchain, and there are a bunch of people who are trying to make new blockchains for whatever purpose, I would guess. In fact, they talk about in this article Boost VC. It's Draper's venture capital program, I guess. I don't know. But he says, well, first of all, they're trying to get 100 startups, or they're trying to help fund 100 startups before 2017, which is pretty crazy. But he says all of them, and this is for a specific tribe of startups. There's 5 of them in the most recent class, I guess. So they call it a class or a tribe. All 5 of these startups in some way are using the blockchain. Some of them are still using Bitcoin. A lot of them are using Bitcoin as a way to get money from one place to another. So it's a tough distinction, but I guess it is. Just some people are using Bitcoin with the Bitcoin blockchain. Some people are using new stuff with the Bitcoin blockchain. Some people are using or creating new stuff without the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's all kinds of possibilities there, I guess. And even within Boost VC, they're doing a lot of those different things. Anyway, so I guess I don't know if we officially distinguish or define these, but we more or less covered what some of the differences could be. And the main point here is that investors don't like Bitcoin. They don't like the word Bitcoin. It kind of scares them. Well, I'll just read this quote here. We use the word blockchain now. I say Bitcoin and they think that's the worst thing ever. It just feels like they put up a guard. Then I switch to blockchain and they're very attentive and they're very interested. And I think that's completely understandable, right? I mean, Bitcoin does have a ton of bad connotations. It shouldn't, but it's volatile. It's, it was part of the Silk Road. It was part of this, whatever, Karl Marx Force deal. People just associate it with bad things like this. When you say blockchain, the first connotations for a lot of people are, I think, pretty innovative, pretty new. That's what the banks talk about. The banks, like you said, John, they don't talk about Bitcoin. Maybe they don't even use Bitcoin. They talk about the blockchain, and they try to make new blockchains or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, do you guys would you agree that this distinction was kind of inevitable, or it's pretty clear? This part I think is a lot easier. I think it's obvious that people, at least in the traditional financial world, they don't really like Bitcoin, but they do like the blockchain. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, because they're not going to like Bitcoin because that kind of flies right in their face, but something like the blockchain could be used as a bank. I still think they're going to not go about it the right way because... Can you tell me the benefit of doing it for them, Daniel? Of them implementing their own like personal blockchain? Yeah.
I mean, I think we've gone over this before, but yeah, if you don't get it, then it's definitely worth doing again. I guess, obviously I'm not an expert, I'm not a banker, but if I had to guess, well, I think what we said before is there really is no strict benefit, no direct benefit, because a blockchain is slower than just changing your own private database. Okay, so I guess for private things, like let's say I send money to you and we both have the same bank, for that kind of private transaction, I don't think a blockchain would have any benefit at all, because a blockchain takes time to confirm, you got to distribute it, you got to save 1 million copies of it for whoever's on the blockchain, whatever. And it's not efficient. Whereas if they had their own data, and this is the way they do it, like with PayPal. Like if I send PayPal to PayPal, it takes a fraction of a second because all they have to do is switch 2 numbers in their database and it's done. There's no propagation, there's no replication or mining or anything like that. No blocks to mine, no waiting for whatever, no hashes. So for private transactions, there is no benefit to the blockchain.
I would disagree.
Save that thought because I want to know why, but real quick, I'll just say where the benefit comes in is with like interbank transactions or transactions where, say, the government is trying to regulate them, and so you need them to be more open, more auditable, just like the blockchain is. You can audit everything in a split second on the blockchain. So anything that needs to be more open, more trustworthy, more visible, and that definitely includes interbank transactions or settlement or whatever, then you could benefit from a blockchain, but not privately. I wouldn't think, but go ahead, John.
Yeah. Well, okay, so, I mean, I think we've already talked about this.
Yeah, we have.
And
but
I think actually we actually talked about this with that article about how if the government used a blockchain, they would have caught Edward Snowden like sooner. But I mean, the reason I think that they still have a benefit is because of the log keeping aspect of it. And yeah, it is going to be slower, but it's also going to be more robust. And they do keep logs of database changes, but those logs are easily altered.
Right.
And that's exactly what Snowden did, and which is the only way that he was actually able to get this stuff out there before they caught him. Right.
I do agree with that. I guess the idea would be that if you're only trading privately, like PayPal to PayPal or whatever, maybe you don't necessarily need infallible logs for that, because you kind of trust yourself, right? If I'm going to put this transaction through, you kind of trust yourself that it's going to... you're going to do what you want it to do.
No, it's not about trusting yourself. It's about trusting your employees. So if someone at PayPal decides to make all these incoming transactions go to their account instead of the ones they're supposed to.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely see that too. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, does that help at all, Tim?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I also have to say, this is a quote from CoinDesk, not from Draper. Financial institutions and investors don't like Bitcoin, but are interested in blockchain. the amorphous term that, while technically referring to Bitcoin's distributed ledger, the blockchain, and derivatives that use its logic, the term has come to serve as a general stand-in for innovation in the way that YOLO was once used to punctuate hip conversations. So blockchain is hip and Bitcoin is not. That's kind of the conclusion there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's less offensive. It's less, not offensive necessarily. It's less of like, Bitcoin's a much more focused, I think, technology than blockchain is. Obviously, like we said, can be applied to a lot of different things and doesn't necessarily bring with it that blockchain doesn't have the news headlines that the word Bitcoin has and is associated with.
Yeah, that's true. It gets terrible media coverage sometimes. So one last thing that is just worth a quick mention is they talk about regulation a little bit, and they say Draper has been openly critical of the bit license. He really doesn't like regulation. He's complaining a couple times in here how it's kind of holding their startups back. Like I said, they're trying to get 100 startups going, and a lot of them, the numbers are smaller now than they used to be because of regulation. It's hard to get going when you gotta do 1 million applications and get these licenses and have a complete legal team and keep records for 10 years, whatever, stuff like that. So I guess that's pretty nice to hear him talking about. He says actually that's another part of the reason that people are going towards blockchain is because Bitcoin itself as a currency is going to be regulated. But with blockchain, if you kind of expand or do something different, then maybe it won't be regulated. So that's a factor too. Anyway, let's do advice of the week. What are people going to take away from this magnificent 50 or so minutes that they just enjoyed? My advice is YOLO.
Just YOLO. Just steal. If you got the chance to steal $370,000, you should probably take it and then just say you're crazy.
No, but it won't work, Tim.
No, but
that's terrible advice. That's the exact opposite of this whole story that we've been talking about.
No, it's not. All you have to do is just not get caught. And if you do get caught, you get like 6 years or whatever
Tim,
it is.
That should be your advice then. If you're going to steal $370,000, don't get caught. That would be way easier.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you should just not get caught.
Like, I think if you're golfing, you should just try and get a hole-in-one every time. Then you don't have to
get a hole-in-one, I just quit. It's just a bad idea after that.
Well, it's just easier, too. Like, then you don't, because putting's hard. So just get a hole-in-one every time, and then you're good.
All right, let's go to Scally's, and Daniel can get a hole-in-one every time.
He should be able to. It's only a par 3. It's we suck.
I mean, I know I might get harassed here for explaining my jokes, but that was a Happy Gilmore thing if you didn't get it.
Don't explain just jokes.
Well, neither of you seemed like you picked it up, so I just figured
That's
I'd throw it out there.
because it was a bad joke, Daniel. It wasn't because we didn't understand it.
Well, I didn't care if you understood it. I was making a reference and you didn't get the reference.
Yeah, and then you explained it, so you did care if we understood it.
No, I did. Yes, I didn't care if you understood the joke. I cared if you understood the reference, which obviously you didn't, because you're an uncultured son of a bitch.
Happy Gilmore.
All right, we still need something from John.
I haven't seen Happy Gilmore since I was like 12.
I don't think I have either.
And I haven't watched it again because I'm not 12.
Is that your advice? Don't watch Happy Gilmore if you're older than 12?
No, you can watch it all you want. I mean, Caddyshack is better, but my advice,
you got to come up with something, because you never know if we don't give people all the right advice, you never know how destructive their lives might become in the next week.
Well, I mean, I guess right now I'd say my advice is to prepare your advice beforehand.
Yeah, think of something before. If you're going into something where you kind of know you're going to have to come up with advice, probably go into it thinking of something beforehand, or else you'll sound like an asshole.
Yeah, that's my advice for today.
Well, I mean, that's the glory of pre-recording, though. I mean, we could wait for an hour for you to figure something out and then just cut it in as if nothing ever happened.
This is true.
So
my second piece of advice, always pre-record your shows.
and better yet, never release them. So then you can never screw up if you don't release shows.
Yeah, people won't send you hate mail.
Exactly. People won't send you hate mail. You won't give out bad advice. All right. See you next week, guys. Check out @YouMe and BCC.com on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, all up in the interwebs. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to episode 95. All of the music in today's show was from John Stuart. Remember to check out this week's show notes at youmeandbtc.com and leave us a comment. We'll see you next Thursday.